In this video, I'm going to show you how to format the score of your big band charts. But before I get into it, I'm trying out a new format this week where I'm actually recording this live. So you can see the back of my office as opposed, or what's normally behind me when I set up the camera. And I'm looking at the computer that you normally would see behind me in my previous tutorials. So we're going to be going into Sibelius. I'm going to be talking in real time, and I'm going to show you how I format the score before I print it out or deliver it as a PDF to whoever hired me to write it. So let's get right into it. So here is the score in Sibelius. It's a recent commission of mine called Slaps for Scraps, which I wrote for the West Ranch High School Jazz Band. They're going to premiere it in December, hopefully, if they get it together. The actual version of the chart I've already formatted and already sent off. So I actually copied everything into a new file so that it would start fresh with no formatting at all. And I can show you exactly what I do when I'm formatting, or copying, as we call it, when I'm copying my score. So anyway, this is called Slaps for Scraps. And as you can see, we've got 5 bars in the first page, and there's a lot of issues. So I'm just going to jump into it. So the very first thing I do, and this is something I do in Sibelius, but you can do it in whatever software you're using, is I set up how many measures per page. So in Sibelius, that's in the layout tab. There's something called auto breaks, and you set it up to do every 4 bars. Now, generally, we want the pages of our score to match the phrasing of the piece. The same way that you do on each system on a part, you would do 1 page on the score. And that makes it a lot easier to navigate the score for the conductor. So in this case, because I'm using portrait layout, the tall pages, I'm going to do 4 bars per page, with the assumption that they're going to print it out double-sided and be able to see 2-page spreads. So they'll be able to actually see 8 measures of music at a time while they're conducting. So I've done that here, and then I'll literally go through and make sure that everything matches the phrasing. So in this case, we have an 8-bar phrase. It's all good. Oh, actually, before I go on, there's a couple of things that I personally like to do that you might not like. But by default, Sibelius puts all of your system text displayed on the top and right above the drum part. And the part right above the drum part doesn't do a lot for me. I know we're going to get into disagreements with some people for this, but in my case, I like to get rid of it. So that's in Sibelius, that's in the appearance tab. There's system object positions. But if you're using MuseScore or Finale or Dorico, all of these functions are in there. They're just, you access them a different way. So make that decision. I just made it disappear from the bottom. See, it's gone now. It's still up here. And up here. But and that'll do it for all of the system text all throughout. Then I change the document size. So by default, Sibelius uses a larger document size than I think can really be handled vertically like this. So I think I do 4.5. Let's see what that looks like. That looks pretty good. You don't want to make it too small. The whole point of doing vertical format pages is so that the music is still legibly big. I used to do landscape pages, sideways pages with 8 bars per page, which was great because you got to see more music at a time, but the music became really, really small. And I noticed that other composers were using, or copyists were using these vertical score pages, and I think that works really well for me too. So that's why I'm making this decision. It's not right or wrong to do it one way or the other, just so long as the music is exceedingly legible. Now notice when I reduced the staff size, it also reduced all the text sizes. So I actually go in here and change these text sizes. In Sibelius, you kind of have to go here, you click on this little corner thing, and then you can change each of the types of text sizes. So that the little thing above The title is called A Dedication for West Ranch High School Studio A Jazz Band. In this case, I just go in here and I just change size in score. I don't touch the parts at this point because I don't know yet what I want to do. But in this case, I'm making the size in the score 16, and notice how much bigger that just got. Then I'm going to go to the title, which is by default at 25. I'm going to make it 40 and see what that looks like. That actually looks pretty good. Like, you want it big enough that that it's easily legible. Then I tend to make most of them 16. So the composer, which is my name, Elliot Deutsch, I'll make 16. Great. Then I'll make this copyright on the bottom, which doesn't really have much information, but that's fine. I'm going to make this one 16 as well. Okay, great. And I'm okay with the size of the, what do you call it? Tempo text. So great. Then the next thing that is pretty important, and I'll talk about this when I talk about formatting parts as well, but you really need the title of the composition on every page of the score, because these pages get separated. I mean, they shouldn't, but they do. So in Sibelius, it's called header after first page inside edge. And so I'm just going to create it, slaps for scraps. And then notice it adds it to the top of each subsequent page. And actually, we might make this a little bit bigger. In the score, let's make it 14. That looks better. Okay, great. So remember back to the beginning, we made it 4 bars per page. Well, that so far so good. You got our double bars should be on page breaks. So far so good. Oh, here's our first issue that we're running into. Notice that the guitar part by default has tablature on it. You can actually fix this if you go into the engraving rules. And I recommend that you do this unless you're writing a chart for a guitarist that you know needs the tablature. It's non-standard for a jazz band, so you really shouldn't have it in there. So you go into chord symbols, and I actually change mine to chord text only. And then I actually like to take the major and minor and do M-A-M-I. That's what I was taught to do in school while working on my master's degree in jazz. That's what they prefer, and so I'm used to it. But really, any of the choices that are in here are going to be fine. Just know that you can make them for yourself. And so I can't see my okay. It's behind the camera. Okay, so there. The chord symbols look better. That's good. We've got a mixed meter, so it goes into 3/4 for 2 bars, and that's actually where our first phrasing issue begins. And then we've got 3 bars. Oh, and I must have mistake. I don't know why it defaulted to put the thing there, but it should have been like that. You would want to put the double bar on the end of the page, and in fact, there's not much going on these pages. It might make sense, because this, from letter B all the way to this next double bar, should really be shown on a 2-page spread. So I would probably take these 6 bars with the 2, 3, 4s at the end, put them on 1 page, then take these 5 bars and force them onto a page. And then you see this whole phrase is a spread. It's not too dense. If there were a bunch of moving 8th note figures or 16th note lines during those on those pages, it might not fit so easily, but in this case, it seems to fit fine. So that's what we're going to do. Then, how are we doing here? Oh, 8 minutes. All right, we're doing it. Okay. Then we just sort of continue with the same thing. Here's our next 3/4 section, but it's the same. So we'll do that. It's a little denser, but I think we're still okay. Oh, and this is exactly 4 bars here, so it might actually make sense to do it the other way in this case. Let's see what that looks like. I think I like that better, because this is pretty dense. Okay, so then we're in our solo section. Some of these things are on top of each other. You can actually grab all this stuff and then, where's the tool? Oh, it's moved. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it is in layout. I just couldn't find it. It's optimized selection. Boop, there, and it spread it a little bit better. in this case, I don't think I actually used the bottom. No, I did. So you can hide the piano staves that aren't being used, and that might be a good way to get a little bit more space. Then just look for things like this, where the chord symbols are colliding and optimize. Okay. I'm missing. So in Sibelius, when first and second endings are lines. So if you just select the bars and push line and do first ending, it actually puts the bracket in kind of the wrong place, which is frustrating. So you actually have to select the notes that are in each measure. Notice that the selection doesn't go quite to the end when I select it this way. And you create a line, first ending. It looks the same, but it's going to appear correct in the parts. So I'm going to go from that rest to this rest and make that the second ending. I guess it's the third ending, really. So this should be a 1-2 ending. There we go. I like to put my endings all on the same page, like that. It's going to look a little bit easier. I know these guys are colliding again. Yeah, that looks better to me. Something that, again, I disagree with some people on by Sibelius by default puts all the articulations above the note, which I actually think is great. That's standard. But what they don't do is put them above the staff, which is also standard for jazz band writing. So notice, let me find you a good example where there's a bunch of them. And actually, I've been doing this whole thing in concert pitch, but I'm eventually going to be printing it in transposed. So let me change the whole score to transposed now. That's probably better, honestly, for us to be doing the work in transposed. So while I'm at it, yeah, here, if you look at this Barry part, you've got these accent markings here, and then over here are appearing inside the staff. If you go into the engraving rules, you go into the articulation menu, and you unselect allowed in staff for each one. And then notice they all move to on top of the staff now. And that is going to apply for the entire score and all the parts. And that's really what you want. All right, still going. We got a double bar right to the thing. It's a bass solo. That's good. Here is the repeat. Then this is a 12-bar phrase. Good. Then our sax solo. Here we go. Now this chart is already finished, so I'm just going page by page on the score. Now, this usually, a lot of the times I'm doing this as I'm writing. So by the time I'm done composing, the score is 90% of the way to where I want it to be when I'm delivering it. So a lot of the time I'm not actually doing this stuff at the end like this. Here I've got 6 3/4 bars at the last time this phrase comes. So I'm gonna just put them all on one page like this. Again, I'm trying to match the pages to the phrasing of the piece. We've got an extra bar in this phrase at the very end, which is pretty typical. So I'm just gonna force it onto one page. Okay, so now we're pretty close. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Now I push home a bunch of times. Sorry if that was kind of jarring to see. Now, this is something that I've started doing in my last, couple years of writing, where I start to consider about how it's going to print double-sided. So right now, if we just push print and did two-sided, it would print this first page on the first page. Then you'd flip it open, and your spread would actually be this. The second page to the third page, which is not ideal because, while it's not as clear on the intro, once you get into letter A, we want the entire letter A to be on the stand, and then they flip, and then they see the entirety of letter B, and then they flip, and they see the entirety of letter C, right? That kind of gets destroyed later on when when we get to our 12-bar solo section. But let's not worry about that. But we do want to make it as good as possible. So what I've started doing is when I notice that my introduction is an even number of pages, I've started defaulting to adding a title page to my score, which is something that's very easy to do in Sibelius. So if I go into the layout tab and click title page, it says number of blank pages, 1, title, slaps for scraps, composer Elliot Deutsch. Good, click OK. And there it is like this. That's fine. I like to reformat it a little bit. And in this case, because it's a commission for West Ranch High School, I like to put that on the cover as well. So there is a, let me see, title and blank page text, dedication. So I'll click here and we'll type for West Ranch High School Studio A Jazz Band, directed by Brian Leff. Maybe this should be on 2 lines on the cover. We'll put my name down here. This will go above the title, maybe there, and then we can actually make the title a bit bigger because, again, it's a short title, so we have more space. So I don't know, maybe 70. Does that look like? That looks pretty good. So they're going to print it out, and it's going to look like this, and that'll be great. So at this point, the score is done. I tend to deliver transposed scores as opposed to concert pitch scores, and that's just because most directors are less concerned with analyzing what part of the chord the parts are in, and more concerned with being able to talk in the language of each instrumentalist. So if they're talking to the bari player, they want to see the part in E flat because that's what the player has in front of them. So they can go, on measure 16, make sure you're playing in E flat. So if you have a concert pitch score, it makes it much more difficult for the director to do that, unless they have a lot of experience transposing into all the different keys. And why should we force them to do that? So anyway, that is how I format scores. Next week, we'll be back with parts, and see you then. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the Pandemonium Big Band channel, subscribe. All right. Check out the Patreon, and until next time, goodbye.